You enroll as a computer science major. You're ready to pay for a computer science degree. But before the college will hand you that diploma, they force you to spend 35% to 50% of your total tuition on classes that have absolutely nothing to do with computer science. Sociology, art history, philosophy, literature, classes you didn't ask for, classes you don't need for your career. But you can't graduate without them. At a public university, that's $17,000 to $24,000 in forced spending. At a private school, $62,000 to $88,000. They're holding your degree hostage until you pay for classes completely unrelated to why you enrolled. This isn't education. This is institutional coercion, and I bet you didn't know just how deep this scam goes. Here's how the con works. Every bachelor's degree requires 120 credits to graduate, but colleges mandate that 42 to 60 of those credits, that's 1/3 to 1/2 of your entire degree, must come from general education requirements. What are general education requirements? Classes across multiple disciplines that have nothing to do with your major. If you're studying engineering, they force you to take courses in literature and social sciences. If you're majoring in English, they mandate math and natural science classes beyond basic requirements. This isn't optional. It's not a suggestion. You literally cannot graduate without completing these requirements, regardless of whether they relate to your career goals. Let's talk dollars. The average cost per credit hour at a public four-year university is $406. At private universities, it's $1,469. Multiply that by 42 to 60 credits, and you're looking at $17,052 to $24,360 at public schools, or $61,698 to $88,140 at private institutions, all for classes that have zero connection to your major. This is forced bundling. Imagine buying a car and the dealership says, before we give you the keys, you also have to purchase this boat, this lawnmower, and this bicycle. It'll make you a more well-rounded driver. You'd call that extortion, but when colleges do it, they call it education. And here's the kicker. Most of the developed world doesn't do this. In the United Kingdom, undergraduate degrees take 3 years to complete because students take courses almost exclusively within their major. The same is true across most of Europe. They produce educated, successful professionals without forcing students to pay for unrelated coursework. So if the rest of the world can educate students without this requirement, why does America force it? Let's examine their justification. Colleges claim general education requirements serve 3 purposes: creating well-rounded graduates with broad knowledge, developing critical thinking skills, and ensuring students can participate fully in society and the modern economy. Sounds noble, right? Here's the problem. That's not a college's job when you're paying them specifically to teach you computer science or engineering or nursing. You already spent 12 years, kindergarten through 12th grade, getting a general education. That's what K-12 is for. That's why we have mandatory public schooling teaching mathematics, science, literature, history, and social studies. If you wanted to study art history, you would have majored in art history. If you wanted philosophy, you'd have chosen philosophy. You didn't. You chose a specific field because you have specific career goals. The university's job is to prepare you for that career, not force you to subsidize other departments. But here's what they don't advertise. Students consistently report that college general education courses are just repeats of high school material. One analysis from the Michigan Journal of Economics found that many of these required courses cover the exact same curricula as standard high school education, leading the researcher to argue that these requirements exist primarily as a means to keep students in school longer, to collect more tuition fees. Want to know the real reason? An Inside Higher Ed analysis revealed that the distributional model, where every department requires students take their courses, continues largely because it provides job security. As long as students are required to take courses in all divisions remain viable and funded. It's institutional self-preservation disguised as educational philosophy. They're not making you well-rounded. They're making themselves paid, and the numbers prove you never needed these classes in the first place. Joe Rogan enrolled at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, but dropped out before completing his degree. He couldn't see how classroom courses in sociology or art history would help him pursue stand-up comedy and martial arts, his actual passions. Instead of sitting in general education classes, Rogan performed at open mics, taught taekwondo, competed in martial arts, and learned by doing. Today, the Joe Rogan Experience reaches more people than most television networks. His podcast deal with Spotify was worth over $200 million, and his total net worth exceeds $120 million. He never took the required general education classes. He never became well-rounded by university standards, and he built a media empire anyway. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft. He skipped the mandatory general education requirements universities claim are essential. Today, he's worth $130 billion, and Microsoft is valued at over $3 trillion. Mark Zuckerberg left Harvard after 1 year to focus on Facebook. No completed general education requirements, no well-rounded college experience. Facebook, now Meta, is valued at nearly $800 billion. Steve Jobs attended Reed College for just 1 semester before dropping out. He later said, "I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay." Looking back, it was was one of the best decisions I ever made. Apple is now worth $3 trillion. Richard Branson dropped out of high school at 16. He struggled with dyslexia and found traditional education nearly impossible. Today, he's built Virgin Group into more than 400 companies worth a combined $3 billion. Larry Ellison dropped out of 2 universities before founding Oracle, now worth over $300 billion. Fashion designer Ralph Lauren, media mogul Oprah Winfrey, celebrity chef Wolfgang Puck, extraordinarily successful, none with college degrees, none with completed general education requirements. These aren't exceptions. A study from the Kauffman Foundation found that 95% of entrepreneurs who built companies worth over $1 billion either dropped out of college, never attended, or built their businesses in fields completely unrelated to their degrees. If general education requirements were truly necessary for success, every single one of these people should have failed. They didn't take Sociology 101, they didn't complete art history, they didn't sit through Introduction to Philosophy, but they didn't fail. They thrived, because those requirements were never necessary in the first place. Let's follow the money and see who really benefits from general education requirements. General education courses are typically large lecture classes, often 200 to 300 students in a single section. Many are taught by adjunct professors who earn as little as $3,000 per course, with no benefits or job security. Meanwhile, students are paying $406 per credit hour at public universities, or $1,469 at private schools. A typical 3-credit general education course costs students $1,218 to $4,407. Multiply that by 300 students in one section, and a single general education class generates $365,400 to $1,322,100 in revenue. The professor teaching that course gets $3,000. Where does the rest go? Administrative overhead, departmental funding, and keeping degree programs viable that wouldn't otherwise have enough majors to justify their existence. Students at the University of Massachusetts reported spending roughly 2 full semesters, 1 entire academic year, or 25% of their 4-year education, just fulfilling general education requirements. That's 1 year of tuition, 1 year of room and board, 1 year of opportunity cost from not working or starting a business. A Michigan economics student calculated that only 41% of his courses were in his major, 22% were in his minor, and 37%, nearly as much as his major, were spent on general education courses. He concluded that these requirements represent a deadweight loss to the economy, arguing they exist to keep students in school longer for tuition revenue. Compare this to the United Kingdom and Europe, where undergraduate programs focus almost entirely on the student's chosen field of study. British students complete bachelor's degrees in 3 years. They graduate earlier, enter the workforce sooner, and avoid 1 full year of tuition costs, all while receiving education perfectly adequate for professional success. The data is clear. General education requirements don't exist because they're pedagogically necessary. They exist because they're financially profitable and politically convenient for universities. So, what should you do about it? First, understand when you have no choice. If you want to become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, architect, or work in most licensed scientific fields, you need formal credentials. You're stuck with general education requirements because professional licensing requires a degree. But if you're pursuing business, marketing, programming, design, content creation, sales, entrepreneurship, or most creative fields, general education requirements are optional at best and a waste of money at worst. But for the majority of students attending mid-tier state universities or private colleges, accumulating massive debt for a generic degree with 40% of credits in unrelated subjects doesn't add up financially. If you're committed to getting a traditional degree but want to minimize the general education scam, consider this strategy. Complete your general education requirements at a local community college where costs are dramatically lower, often under $150 per credit hour versus $406 to $1,469 at 4-year institutions. Then transfer to a 4-year university to complete your major requirements. This approach can save you $10,000 to $50,000 depending on how many credits you complete at community college rates. Just ensure the credits transfer by checking articulation agreements between institutions beforehand. Alternatively, consider whether you need a traditional degree at all. The digital economy has democratized education and opportunity. You can learn programming through free online resources and build a portfolio that gets you hired. You can learn digital marketing by running actual campaigns. You can learn design by designing. You can start a business and learn entrepreneurship by building something real. The question isn't, should everyone skip college? The question is, what's the most efficient path to my specific goals? For some people, that's a 4-year degree despite the waste. For others, it's starting at 18, learning skills that matter, finding mentors, and building real value in Here's a Strategic Framework. Ask yourself, is the knowledge highly specialized? Is credentialing legally required? Are the network effects worth the investment? If you answered yes to those questions, particularly for top-tier universities like Harvard, Stanford, or MIT, where network effects can be genuinely valuable, the investment might make sense despite general education requirements. Don't let universities hold your career hostage while you pay for classes you'll never use. General education requirements force students to waste 35% to 50% of their tuition on classes unrelated related to their career goals. That's $17,000 to $88,000 in mandatory spending on coursework you didn't ask for and don't need. Universities justify this by claiming they're creating well-rounded graduates. The reality? They're protecting departmental job security and maximizing tuition revenue. Joe Rogan built a $120 million empire without their general education requirements. Bill Gates created a $3 trillion company without completing mandatory coursework. Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, none of them needed Sociology 101 or Introduction to Art History to achieve extraordinary success. They proved the system was never about your education. It was about their revenue. If you're trapped in this system, minimize the damage through community college transfers and strategic planning. If you have a choice, seriously evaluate whether you need a traditional degree at all. And whatever you do, stop believing the lie that paying for unrelated classes makes you well-rounded. It doesn't. It just makes them paid. If this expose opened your eyes to how the system really works, hit that subscribe button. Someone needs to call out this scam. Let us know in the comments. Have you been forced to pay for general education classes you'll never use?